Hello and welcome to the Gooners podcast, season 6, episode 58, a slow news week. So welcome to everybody that's joined us. We got Jared with us. We've got it is actually 4 countries represented today. We got Jared representing the U.S. of A. We got Owen from Northern Ireland. Jace, of course, as everyone knows, is from Wales. And then from England, we've got me because I get Ba'a everywhere I go. So we've got the international show tonight, but no football since Thursday. It's been a week of gates, though. Oh, and do you love gates? Do you like? I mean, gate, and it's everything is gate all the time. And Watergate made sense because like the apartment buildings where the office was that led to Watergate was called Watergate. It wasn't called Water. Mm-hmm. And then they add gate, but now you add gate to the end of everything.
Pizzagate and yeah.
Pizzagate,
I'm a fan.
Gate, Tollington Gate, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Jared, is it cold where you are in Chi-Town? We got snow on the ground here, but I heard it's
we got a little snow, pretty chilly, but for January, I'll take it. It's not an absolute blizzard right now, so we're surviving.
Well, speaking of surviving, when there's controversy, when there's hatred running rampant in the Arsenal universe, when there's a special sort of negativity that only one person can bring to the carpet, we have the perfect guest. And his name is the High Honorable Earl of Cardiff, the Duke of Douchebagashire, the Prince of Sheep, the Viscount of Vlahovic. That was for Andy, by the way. I didn't say that. The Count of Sesame Street. It's Sir Jason of Davies. Welcome back, you adorable son of a bitch.
DT's on fire. His backyard is terrified. DT's in prison. He's going to get a big surprise.
You've got a new background. Have you just finally purchased window coverings, or is this a new podcasting studio?
Window coverings?
They're called curtains.
When you have been married for 26 years, it's called, or for 25 years, they're called window coverings, because window coverings can be either curtains, shades. What are the things called that you pull? The lines.
It's bloody cold out there, so I'm not built for the cold. So it's yeah. Any ones? I thought it was better than seeing streetlights.
He's actually hiding now because of the crimes that were committed on the 22nd of October.
I always thought that you were the inspiration behind Tom Canton's green screen. It's like Davies is the OG green screen user.
Not the green screen. He's just the inspiration behind Tom Canton. That's all.
Funny enough, actually, I am. I'm the one who gave him his debut.
That's true. There is something to be said for that. But he took the ball and ran with it, which
fair play to him. He did, didn't he? He really did.
So this is the first time we've done a podcast since at least 2 of us and you have met. And what a glorious morning, afternoon, and evening that was. We were talking about it a little bit before the show, and then I just started the show because I didn't want to miss any of this stuff. But does it feel any different now that you've met us? Did we disappoint? Was it fun? Tell us a little bit about the day of the Villa game.
Well, to be fair, I owe Owen a pack of cigarettes at some point, because I kept on bumming his cigarettes off him. He made the fatal mistake. I don't smoke anymore. He made the fatal.
Neither does he. But you guys were bumming each other all day.
Hey, let me tell you one thing, okay? He was all right. He was all right.
At least I got to sleep with him.
We were up by the back of the bins.
Jared, I'm apologizing for this three-way that we're having. I would have loved for you to have been there as well, but
I'm not disappointed that I didn't make it a four-way. I gotta tell you, listening to the stories, I think I'm fine sitting this one out.
Right, Jared, you'd have enjoyed yourself. That's all I'm going to say. You'd have enjoyed it. It was a top night. It was Chris was there, Neil. There you go, Chris, Neil, Simon Collins. Oh, Simon, Jesus, the boy's just photogenic, isn't he?
Beautiful man.
I felt like, do you know when like fat chicks like try to hide in photos from their like really tall, slender best friend? That's what I felt like standing next to Simon Conn.
Well, at least the other two had the common sense to not stand right next to him for the photo. They tried to distance a little bit. You just posted up on his shoulder where no human being's ever going to look worse.
Proud man. It cost me a lot of money to get that fat.
I tried to find like an angle of him that was less pleasing, but like I took under like underskirt type photos and that sort of stuff, and it's just you can't find one. He's
put that photo back up again and just compare his height.
Him and Chris.
Him and Chris.
It's like Adonis and like the Greek god version of like the gerbil.
I just keep on thinking of Charlie the Chocolate Factory. Do you know what I mean?
What, like an Oompa Loompa? Guys, I hope you're enjoying this Arsenal podcast that we're having so far. But this was a fantastic afternoon. Jace was in rare form already, teaching us various sign language. And later in the day, it got a little bit more crowded in there. Jace still looks as happy as ever. What do you call that look? Is that like a look that's well known to those who you love? And
you should see where my hand is. That's why Chris is smiling.
Your hand's in one of two places, and neither one of them are acceptable. But we've got Suburban Chris in there. We've got Jace. And remind me who your arms around. Pablo, that's right. And then even Tom in the background, in the very far background. Canton and Rosenhammer. So what an afternoon that was. And then of course the game didn't hurt either. Like from the time we left the Tollington though, Jace, I don't think I heard or spoke to you or of you again that whole afternoon. What did you make it back afterwards, or? Oh yeah, I wasn't sure you were alive until you showed up for this podcast.
To be fair, people kept on buying me beer. Okay, I was smashed going into the game. Poor Chris had to put up with me moaning all the way back to the hotel. Okay, and then the noises that were coming from that hotel room when I was sleeping couldn't have been pretty. But no, it was just a top day, top game. To be fair, I wasn't expecting much, and it was a really great performance. So that made me smile, but there was no way I was drinking beer afterwards. There would have been hell and high water. I
love how we like. I told him that I was coming, and then I told him that you were coming over. I'm like, Jace, if you're ever going to come to London for a game, this has got to be the game that you come to Friday night. And he still says he wasn't expecting much. He should have been expecting everything, and should have been disappointed with what the.
You normally text me a day before, okay? At least this time you gave me a bit of notice, right? I'll come up. So we sorted everything out. The boys were all there. Fifey turned up, Neil, and it was just, it was great seeing everybody. Mark Gunner Runner was in the Tollington as well.
Yep.
And it kind of sums up what going to the Arsenal has always been about for me. You meet great people, you have a great laugh. And it was just fantastic. Suburban Chris is always top quality. So it's it's just bloody perfect, to be fair.
It's a fun time, and you can easily replicate that even without being in London. We've got something called Gooner coming up in a few weeks if it holds. If COVID allows it, it's kind of on. We're all on tenterhooks right now, but that's kind of one of these things where everybody rolls into town on the Thursday, which we actually have a game for this time, the Wolves rescheduled game, and it's just one big kind of hug fest. You meet new people, you see people that you've seen before, and it's just it's just a fun environment. So can't be a bigger promoter of watching and taking in Arsenal with your mates, whether you're at the game in London, in Australia, in friggin' Newry, or wherever you are. You gotta watch it with mates if you have them. So let's tackle some of these gates. North London Derby gate is where we have to start. Quick vote. Who wanted the game played this weekend, all things considered? Son injury, us being short. Who wanted to actually have the game played?
With hindsight, can we take that into account? No.
Well, with hindsight of what? I mean, we knew that we'd be playing a makeshift lineup, and we knew that they wouldn't have Son, but they probably have everybody else out. I mean, with hindsight of how much it pissed people off, you mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Of course, that's what you mean. I was looking forward to the game. I thought in our current mentality, I thought we'd do them. But yeah, with the hindsight, and I was going to do a second vote, which is who thinks the game should have been played from like a rules standpoint. But we'll skip over to that to who doesn't give a shit and loves the bitching and complaining the entire world has done about it. And I'm all in on that one. So Jace, get us started. We'll save a special segment for Jamie O'Hara, but just as far as the games and the rules and what everybody's been talking about, I mean, has it kind of gotten ridiculous at this point?
Well, look, first and foremost, whether the game goes ahead or doesn't is beyond our control. Okay, I don't care about any of that. Arteta's the manager. His decisions are what his job relies on. So he's going to make those decisions as they go along. If the rules are there to postpone the game due to not having enough players, then he'd be stupid not to take advantage of them and to request the postponement. Okay, those are the Premier League rules. They've been in place all season. Many other clubs have taken advantage of them. Okay, and there's not been a peep from anybody. This weekend, it started with, the two Muppets on Sky Sports, Carragher, a man who spits at children, who throws coins back into the crowd. Okay, he's got a history of sort of poor behaviour. Neville, I kind of like Neville, and he has spoken about games being called off before, but not in the way he spoke about this. And they started what we can describe as a shit fest. Right, with all these wannabe journalists piling on, looking for hits and clicks and making a noise over it. And as soon as we requested the postponement, I kind of, you thought, yeah, go on, give it to us now, because this is going to boil some piss. This is really going to boil some piss. And when the announcement came through, it was just joyous. And Jake Humphrey, the BT Sport presenter, summed it all up. There's lots of people out there, okay, who say this isn't about Arsenal, but then when they start to talk, it's all about Arsenal, and it's been, quite frankly, pathetic. The pack mentality's been hilarious. Watching Spurs fans starting, I'm sure they want to appeal to the Pope or something, starting little,
well, isn't that why they went to Rome to see the Pope?
Damn right. They're starting the little what do you call them when you get loads of signatures? What do you call it? Petitions and stuff like that. They're crying foul, and it's beautiful.
Is a petition ever like I know that I understand that there's some sort of like law in England where if you have enough signatures on a petition, you get to at least present it in front of Parliament. Is that am I correct in that?
Yeah, 150,000, I think.
Yeah, that doesn't exist here. It never has existed here. So petitions have always been like about thought and making a point in principle. But like, what's the point of getting a petition? I mean,
but the whole thing is, okay, we've made a request, under the rules, it's been granted as it matches the criteria of the rules, and everybody's crying about it. I've got to be honest here, I'm going to use their tears as lube. It's a beautiful, beautiful sight, okay? Watching these scummers, okay, absolutely lose their shit over something which, it's by the by. When somebody brought into it, and then they sent their players to AFCON. Well, it's an international tournament. Of course, these guys want to represent their countries on a major tournament. What's the disrespect?
Yeah, the loan argument is a little bit better one than the AFCON argument in my mind. But
but not being funny, if those players are not going to be part of the squad for the other half of the season, we're well within our rights to do that. It's within the rules. It's not a problem. It's all a bit pathetic, isn't it?
Jared, there's until this particular point where we asked for the game to be off, we were maybe one of the only clubs in the Premier League, or certainly in the minority, who had not requested that yet. Liverpool and the EFL, I guess, did. Tottenham many, many times. So, I was kind of like, I was one of those with the Liverpool rescheduling that I was up in arms about it because that's what I do. I overreact to shit. But I was like, this is obviously deceptive. It's bullshit. But guess what? We're probably going to end up needing to do it at some point. And how hypocritical are we going to seem when we do it? I didn't realize it was going to be a few days later. But so again, the rule is clear and it's dumb, but we're within the rules. But should that be the rule? Because, before COVID ever came into play, who would have ever thought to postpone a game because you don't have enough first team play, because you only have 15 recognized or 13 recognized first team players because of injury and internationals and loans and that sort of thing. I mean, who you would have just had to start who you started.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think it was, a week and a half now, the last time you and I were on, one of our main talking points was the problem with this rule is that even if teams aren't intentionally cheating, it's going to give that sort of patina of cheating and taking advantage of a situation because specifically of the rules the Premier League laid out. That's not the fault of Arsenal that they decided to include injured players in that. It's a ridiculous idea that once you start doing it and you sort of set that precedent, of course, teams are going to use that advantageously. It's the job of the team to do what's best for themselves, not what's best for Spurs or rest of the league or anybody else. It's Arsenal's job to do what's best for Arsenal. And once you see all the other games get called off due to injuries, it's kind of green lights you to say, hey, we're not at our best. We might as well do what a number of other teams have done and take this week off, get guys in, hopefully get some guys back from COVID, from injury, maybe bring in some transfers or whatever. But it's not the fault of Arsenal that the Premier League handled it poorly. So people mad at us are, sort of misdirecting that. And you need to look upward, not at Arsenal, because when you put a rule like that in place, it's obviously going to be used that way. And that's what makes me most upset. We talked about it a while back, and it's not like we're some great geniuses. This is an obvious, foreseeable problem that's going to occur. It wasn't if, it's when. You knew this was going to happen. And then now that it has, everyone's in shock and awe, like you didn't know this was coming weeks ago and have just been waiting for a team you don't like to make the move so you can jump in and say, oh, this is unfair. We shouldn't be handling it this way.
It's typical Premier League, though, just to do something like it's like VAR, where you introduce something meant to help and it's left to subjectivity. Oh, and now it's going to get to the point where it is purely strategic because, look, everyone's going to have somewhere between 1 and 4 COVID absences probably for the next month or two. And it doesn't even seem like these COVID absences are being independently verified. So, it's going to end up, and you can't necessarily legislate what is an injury that keeps a player from playing. Mm-hmm. If Burnley's tired right now and they don't want to play against Arsenal on Sunday, and I'm just using that as an example, they could say players aren't fit to play that are, and who's verifying all this? So, it's literally a joke at this point. Can they fix it midstream? Can they say after, this round of fixtures, we're no longer doing this, and any games that have been postponed and played later, players who registered with the team after that, or who weren't available due to international duty when the game was supposed to be played, can't play in that game, so that you take some of the strategy out of it. I mean, if you could postpone games for injured players, Arsenal would still be playing games from 2012. They'd have such a backlog of fixtures from when they had to sign Benayoun on loan.
No, well, look, I think, as you mentioned, look, these problems were always going to arise, and the rules and the system is completely open to exploitation. And I find it surprising that everybody said that it was eventually going to happen at some point, because to me it has been happening the entire season. And the problem with what you said now is about changing the rules. You can't really do that halfway through a season, because there's going to be clubs that have benefited more than others up until this point. So I think that there has to be consistency right the way until the end of the season. This is the rules, this is the criteria. Leave it the way it is until the end of the season, and then just go back to normal next year. Look, the one thing I will say is that I think it's very, very funny that Jurgen Klopp has come out and said that Arsenal are going to be much more rested now on Thursday. When
has he said that? And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I haven't seen any actual reliable source say that.
I've seen it in quote marks, so he said that. Obviously, the quote marks make it.
But who's putting it in quote marks? Hagen.
But anyway, no, but yeah, and he's so reliable. But what I was going to say, even on the case of the fan bases, like Liverpool are now turning around and saying that Arsenal were in uproar about Liverpool last week, and now they're completely behind their team doing this. There's a big difference. We didn't bullshit. We didn't turn around and say that we had 13 false positive cases or something like that.
Well, they didn't say they had 13. Well, not until
I think the statistical chance of that, I think, is something like 0.5 to 4% of one false positive case, let alone 13 false positives, which is just absolutely insane. But what I will say is the best thing that I think has happened from this, one thing that I'm really happy about, and it's funny because normally we would come in here, a full week without football. It's pretty boring. We're trying to find topics to talk about. Number one, there's shitloads of topics to talk about this week. And number two, the fan base is so unified. I have never seen the fan base get unified like this in years. And the one thing that I will say is that that I'm really proud to be an Arsenal fan is that literally everybody that has taken aim at the club, pundits, media, ex-players, managers, whoever it is, the Arsenal fans have gone out and absolutely dissembled, just pulled apart their entire reputation and what their arguments are built upon. And I've never seen the Arsenal fan base all pulling in one direction at once, and I think it's just a thing of beauty at the minute.
Speaking of dissembling and destroying reputations, Jace, where on the Jason Davies scale does Jamie O'Hara sit, with ranging from Aaron Ramsdale to Gary Mabler?
To be honest, Jamie O'Hara's nowhere. He was a nothing player, okay? He's a nothing pundit. He's maybe one of the most ignorant people on Talk Sport. And that's saying something. When you look at some of the people on Talk Sport, they don't know their arse from their elbow. And Jamie O'Hara's right up there, And I found his behaviour over the weekend particularly odious, He's Mike Hurt, I love you, bro. I love you. But Jared's got maybe the sweetest voice on podcasting. Okay, Jared, you should go into reading them audiobooks. You'd make $1 million. Okay, you really would. But
you've got on the Mount Rushmore, you've got Clive, you've got FK, and then you've got Jared. I mean, and then Jace.
I'm sorry, there's just Jared. Okay. But, Jamie O'Hara was a nothing player. Somebody put something up the other day, apparent Spurs legend, less appearances for Spurs.
Oh, that was
Manny
me.
Ceballos for Arsenal.
That was Owen.
That was me, yeah.
But nice. But, he comes up with a tweet, Arsenal equals shithouses and all these things. And then last night, he plays the mental health card. You don't poke the bear, okay, and expect not to get it, not to get growled at. And okay, if you're abusing him, I got no time for that. But all you have to do is just relate facts to him. This is a man who assaulted and hit a child. This is a man who's accused by his ex-wife of hitting her with a shoe. You know what I mean? This is not a pleasant fella. And to be honest with you, he's insignificant. TalkSport must have employed him for a laugh, and he gets hits and clicks, and that's why they keep him on. But the whole premise of his argument was just nonsense. You know, he deserves to be eviscerated from the history of football.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I put this up anytime anything controversial is said, but
he's been, you know, he hit a child. He was fined for hitting a child. Okay, his ex-wife alleged that he has hit her with a shoe, stuff like that. There's nothing, you know. Bring it on.
I didn't mean to put you in a mode to have to defend that. It was more of it was a joke. But
do you want me to jump in there? Just because obviously because of the situation with my tweet earlier, I'm not sure if you've seen that, but it was me that stuck it up, Jace, that I think it was something along the lines of, it's funny that the self-nominated representatives for Spurs has appeared for them less times than Danny Ceballos has for Arsenal, which is true. Yeah, and then obviously, look, with the mental health thing, and I'll be honest, I went and looked under not only my tweet but other people's tweets, and some of the things and allegations, and I agree with you, them allegations are absolutely vile, but what I will say is they're allegations and there's no context behind them. And I think what you were doing there, Jace, is absolutely perfect. Poke fun of his career in football, poke fun of his managerial career, poke fun of his media career, but when people start to get personal and attack somebody, that isn't for me. As I always say, I find it really funny when people punch up, when people punch up at people, and a bit of intelligence behind the jokes that they're making. But what I don't like is when people just abuse people's personal lives, and I don't find fun kicking a dead dog, you know. And that to me was what Jamie O'Hara was. So I decided to delete the tweet. Of that, because for me, Arsenal's a classy football club and the fans are better than that, and I wouldn't want to be associated with those people who are piling on with throwing about even worse allegations than you were mentioned. There was some other vile things that I seen underneath mine.
Look, it goes back to the sorry, do you want to come in there? I absolutely respect what you're saying, okay, because it goes back to the Crafton business, okay. When Adam Crafton picked his Spurs 11 and it's Spurs Arsenal 11, they were all Spurs players, and then we won the game and everybody piled on. Now, I thought, tweeting him back with the picture of Mesut Ozil drinking a cup of tea was hilarious, okay? I thought that was a thing of beauty, and people did that, and I thought, I'm fully behind that. Having a go about it, his religion or his sexuality and stuff like that, I've got no time for. Okay, it's got nothing to do.
When we first did a podcast together? Well, it wasn't the first time, but
no,
you remember what the subject was?
Yeah, with
Miguel. You joined me because Andy wasn't available in a very similar situation.
Yeah, with Miguel, and it's one of those things. I've got no time for sort of, you can have a go for the things you know are true. Okay, you can have a go. It's like I say, allegedly with his wife, because she has claimed that. Okay, I don't mind bringing up it in the child because he's done it. He's been fined for it. He's been found guilty of it, etc., etc. But bring up facts and not nonsense with him. And don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, football banter. We've seen this a million times, and the thing I was talking about with Jace was like way back at the beginning of this podcast. The thing with Adam Crafton posting a combined 11 with Arsenal and Spurs, where he picked 11 Spurs players, and Arsenal itself posted something, I think it was after the game, I believe, of Mesut Ozil sipping tea, and essentially Miguel Delaney came out to defend Adam. I'm sure Adam's a perfectly lovely guy, but and people did get very personal. They brought his sexuality into it. They brought his history into it. And that's bang out of order. I agree. The reason that I think in that particular episode way back in, I remember it was Thanksgiving week, so it was November, I think maybe 2016 or 17, probably 17. The reason that we kind of took the side of, you banter the fan base, they're going to banter you back, was because they were blaming Arsenal for it. Yeah. They were blaming Arsenal for inflaming it by essentially, tweeting a picture of Ozil, who we all still loved at the time, sipping tea. and that's where I drew the line on that. But no, personal attacks are never reasonable. But there's enough to banter him on football wise.
Yeah, completely. And that's the thing as well. If you go back and look at any of the comments that he has made, they genuinely are lighthearted banter that you would expect between, somebody who supports the rival club. It was literally just targeted at the footballing aspect. But what I will say is that I can't even remember. It slipped my mind. Go on ahead. It'll pop back up.
But he treated Arsenal equals shithouses. Okay, that is instigating something. Right there, you're instigating something, and at that point,
Jason, would you care as much as like let's face it, this guy's more of a Billericay Town legend than he is a Spurs legend. That's the club that he's made the most appearances for in his career, 47, of which at that point he was the player manager. So is there any surprise that he made? Now, would you turn around and if Yaya Sanogo started commenting on Arsenal, would his opinion carry any weight for you? So why do we really care what Jamie O'Hara thinks about Spurs or Arsenal? He's pretty irrelevant in my opinion.
You're true, but he's also on TalkSport, isn't he?
But that's fucking irrelevant too.
You're true. Well, it's a
without him, though, we wouldn't have this unity that we're currently experiencing right now until the next time we step on a pitch.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, it's just it's all a storm in a teacup. It'll all go away, I mean, the big thing is going to be when we actually play the fixture. That's going to be the important thing. If we get 3 points on their ground, it's going to be massive for us in the charge for top 4. Okay,
so that's Vlahovic scoring too. That would be sweet.
Likewise, though, when that game gets rescheduled, Son scores a brace and they beat us. Mm-hmm. They will not. I hate to keep going back to the well, but they'll be creating every form of media, streaming, printed, video discs. They'll be doing every single thing you could possibly do to celebrate the time that they battered us when we were too afraid to play them. So look, it's certainly going to make for an interesting game. I don't know when they're going to replay it. I'm kind of hoping it's in early April.
Look, we're going to win it.
We can all go to it together, but.
Hey, we're going to win it. Okay, Xhaka's going to score a screaming free kick of a dodgy VAR decision. Right on, and it's going to be sweet.
I've never seen Spurs fans look forward to a North London derby so much in my life. It's like, like one of those punch-drunk boxers that is still hanging around the boxing gym, and he's like, "Oh, I want to fight." I say, "Shut the fuck up, Barry."
It's like one of those people. It's like one of those little people who can't fight. Like, hold me back. Like they want to be held back. Like, please hold me back.
It's especially odd too, given how the first round at the Emirates went with them this year. It wasn't a competitive game. We absolutely played them off the pitch, and since then we've continued to get better, and they've looked terrible.
But did any of you see, even speaking of TalkSport, I think they put out the tweet of Eric Dyer is going to be fuming that he's missed the North London derby. He's scored and told Aaron Ramsey to sit down, and that's a game that we pummeled them, wasn't it? 4-2 or some shit.
Yeah, we put in 4 on him that game.
Yeah, and they now have the honor, as does Arsenal, of having a Puskas winner in their side for a goal that they scored in a game that they lost, in a game where the guy who scored the goal got a red card. It was just so great that their best moments have come amidst failure. And
the beauty of that one was, though, when Ramsey puts the Instagram post up saying, "Sit down," he said.
Yeah.
2 assists, played him off the park. Thank you very much. And funny enough, I remember Lacazette hitting the third and it coming off Dyer to go in. Do you know what I mean?
It's crazy how many of these moments there have been in the history of these clubs, but I don't know. I kind of felt like the time was right. I would have, all things being equal, I would have loved to have had that game this weekend. I never like an Arsenal game getting postponed, even if I feel like we're lower.
But do you think it was wise, Mike, after the effort that was put in by those players on Thursday against Liverpool? Their legs would have been carrying a lot of weight going into that game.
Look. I'm looking for the positives in it, and I'm fine. The day's over. I didn't get to watch a derby. It's fine. I'm looking forward to when it happens. But like in the moment, I was like, oh, I just really kind of would love to keep this going. But again, I'm always wrong with everything I think. So that we probably wouldn't have done well in that game. But there's a couple other gates to talk about. Is there any final words? I just might have interrupted you, Jace, on something else you were going to say.
No, I'm just happy. It genuinely was lovely. I mean, everybody was as one on the weekend. It was peak Twitter. Twitter's never experienced a weekend like that, and look,
Twitter doubled in price over the weekend. There's
maybe this was something that. Don't get me wrong, the Emirates this year and the away fans especially as well have been fantastic this season. But maybe this is something that the Arsenal fan base have needed to unify them with this whole Arteta in, Arteta out thing. I'm just interested to see what it's going to be like on Thursday night for this cup tie at the Emirates. Is it going to be booming the way that I think it might be after something like this?
I think it will be, but the thing is, Twitter doesn't actually represent the fan base as a whole, does it? Twitter's a small portion of the fan base. I think I remember talking to Raj Patel, and when there was the Wenger out protest, etc., as he said, it surprised him at how little influence Twitter actually has on the stadium. Most of the people in the stadium aren't on Twitter; they don't really give a monkeys. If you're going to the crowd to the game, you don't care about what so and so thinks on Twitter. That's all you want. Whether you despise the manager or love the manager, you just want the team to win because they're your team. So you should be getting behind the team at any point. It's not about your personal views. You can have your views, but if Arsenal win, you walk away happy. It makes your day, it makes your weekend, it makes your week, If Arsenal lose, you're devastated and, it's frustrating and, you just want to go home, you just want to close the curtains and just forget about it all. But, so, hopefully it has a really positive influence. Hopefully, we can get behind Arteta. I've got my own views on Arteta. They're not positive or negative at the moment. They're just, we are where we are. He's got to prove it. But I'd rather see him succeed than fail, and I think that's the big thing.
Well, and I'm hearing that there's even a possibility though that we might be putting in for a postponement of Thursday's game, which I mean it goes to a different jurisdiction. It goes to the EFL.
Postpone the whole season, bro.
Can you imagine? I mean, there's not too many teams, of in and around us in the standings right now in the table who are better off clustering games in February. I mean, we have virtually no games after Thursday and Sunday if they happen. We've got like 4 games in 5 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, I think right now we only have 2 scheduled in the month of February. So, I mean, obviously we'll fill in some of those with some makeups, but we've got plenty of room, which is why
there's only one game.
Postponement works in our favor because they've got way more to fill in than we do, and we're not going to have kind of a cluster.
One of the 2 games in February is a made-up game, and so there's really only the Spurs game to make up, and so I mean we do have that light schedule, so I do think that postponed games kind of do serve as far an advantage for us in a sad way because of our failures in the FA Cup, because of our failure to get into Europe. It does, these are not good reasons, but I need somebody to tell me whether that Klopp quote is legitimate or not. I don't believe that he would have. Well, I do believe that he would say that, and if he did, I would spend more time being incredulous about it. But I don't know that it's real. I've heard that it was just some random website or something like that said that. So if you have user questions, put them in the chat. I've seen a couple already. Please keep them going in there and we'll finish off with those afterwards. One quick thing, as I tend to try to do in the middle of pods, if you'll forgive me, we are in the midst of a closed auction. And by closed, I mean we're capping the number of entries at 500 for a pretty incredible piece of Arsenal memorabilia. This signed jersey from 1989, signed by John Lukic, Lee Dixon, Alan Smith, and Michael Thomas, with the words from the famous 1989 Anfield announcement from Brian Moore. So if you haven't already, and many of you have, I appreciate it. $25, which is right about 18 quid, gets you entered. You can enter more than once if you'd like, and there'll be a total of 500. We're probably about a quarter of the way sold, so there's plenty of ways to still get in it. But check this out and go to goonersvcancer.com.
Good ball by Dixon, finding Smith. The top, charging through the midfield. Thomas! It's up for grabs now! Thomas! Right at the end!
Oop, I hit the wrong button, but you get the point. You get the point. It's a cool shirt. So yes, Pedro did buy his ticket last week. They're virtual tickets, so when you make the entry, when you make the donation on goonersvcancer.com, you're automatically entered. And yeah, again, thank you to everybody that has entered this, on top of donating in last year's campaign or in the just completed year's campaign. It's just a lot of generous Gooners out there, and I appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit about transfers. Not really a whole lot going on other than a couple outs. Thank you, Tom. That's true. But Vlahovic, I've watched more Fiorentina in the last week than Arsenal in the last week. And I'll tell you what, guy's good, man. He's really good. I mean, he's, I don't like all this stuff going on around, the noise about his ownership by companies in Serbia and his management and his agent and all that stuff. But the dude is a baller. And today, in fact, they had a game that, they won like 6 or 12-0 against Genoa, but he missed a penalty. It was a Panenka that the goalie dove for and still had time to get up and put his arm in the way. So that wasn't great. But then he scored a goal later in the game that was just, it's one of these goals that only a handful of people like how Van Persie would score goals and Giroud would score goals that you just wouldn't see from other people. Didn't mean that they were the best player in the world. It just meant that they had that kind of, and obviously Henry and Bergkamp were the same. They had that sense of where the goal was, what weight to put on the ball at all times, and he's got that. Jace, what do you know about the player? Are you again? We've talked to you during silly season. We've talked to you outside of that. Are you even paying any attention to this until it either happens or doesn't?
I don't watch him, never seen him play. I did see that goal he scored. Giles retweeted it earlier on, and it's quality. It really is.
The one from today or the one from the weekend? Because there were two that.
I think it's the one from today. I think it's the one from today.
Lobbed it over the keeper after taking the first time. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Again, look. You look at transfers. It's great to talk about them. It's fun, okay? Especially if you know the player and you've seen him come through. That it's amazing to do that. But, from my opinion, at the moment, it's the same with the summer. Whoever they're going to go for, okay? If they truly believe in the player, they should go balls out to them, okay? You absolutely have to go and get them. Whether the player's right or wrong for us, that's their decision. Their jobs will live and die on it, and they have to just make sure that they're getting the right people in. If you look at Ramsdale, for argument's sake, Ramsdale was hardly my dream signing in the summer. But with any player, you just hope they come in, they make a name for themselves, and they go on to become a club legend, because that's the important thing. If they think Vlahovic or whatever his name is the right fit for them, Great stuff. Go and get him. Go and get him. But I look at our needs at the moment. We definitely need a good striker. We need to look at moving Lacazette and Albaron. We really do. The time has come for those guys, unfortunately. And that's with all due respect to them. For all the Aubameyang nonsense, I still like him. He scored a shed full of goals for us. Lacazette, he's been up and down, but he's done well for us, especially recently. But if Edu and Arteta think that this is the man who's going to, take us forward over the next 3 or 4 years, go get him. Spend 80, 90 million quid in him. Spend as much as you need, because a top quality goal scorer is the difference between top 4 and winning trophies. It's as simple as that.
Problem is, it takes 2 to tango, and there doesn't seem to be a consensus, Jared, on whether the player has any interest in coming here or not. Whether that makes sense. I mean, obviously, one reason it makes sense is because we're not assured of Champions League football next year, even though we have an opportunity, and a greater opportunity if he joins us. But what are your thoughts on that? I'm not sure. We may have talked about this last week a bit, but then he went and scored a couple of good goals and convinced me that he's good. So that's big.
Yeah, he's definitely scored a couple of great goals, and there's not many guys at age 21 that have a goal scoring record like him. So anytime you have an opportunity to go for one of those players, I think you need to go for it. As far as the price, it's not my money, so I'm not too concerned with it. They're quoting 80-ish million or a deal close to that, including Torreira. If you think he's a generational striker that's going to bag you 20 goals, get you into the top 4, I don't think you need to let the difference between 70 and 80 million sort of deter you to say that 80 is too much, where we would give 70 for that type of player. Normally, I'm a little bit more critical of that in other positions. But when you're talking about, a potential golden boot type of striker, I think that's the one position where I'm willing to potentially overpay a little bit, just because of the impact they have overall. Like Jay said, if you want to finish consistently top 4 or challenge for a league title, you've got to score more goals than we score right now. And we've improved in that area, but that's still, the striker position is one where Lacazette's done great, but he's not scoring goals. We need somebody who can do what he's doing for us now and also add the goals on top of that. And Vlahovic is that type of player, or at least he is in Italy. Whether that transfers, you never really know until they get here. But he's certainly, I think, the type of player that you would look for in that position, ideally, if he's available. But as far as, do I think it's going to happen, I'd give it less than 50% chance, but it's certainly not impossible.
Yeah, it just seems like one of these things where he's just posturing, and then Madrid or PSG will come in for him, and they'll be like, oh, okay, now I'll go. And any thoughts on Vlahovic, and then start us back around the horn on Aubameyang? Because there's conflicting reports now on why he's being sent home. I think I speak for all of us when I say that if he truly does have a heart issue right now, from whatever the reason is, we don't need to get into that, but if he's suffering from something more than just COVID or a short-term illness, that's not good, and we hope he gets better. But again, there's just more. I mean, there's another Aubameyang gate. It's like Alba Gate 15 at this point.
Yeah, look, on to the first one, Dusan Vlahovic. I think that he could be the perfect striker. He's 21 years of age, even though he looks like he's about 30. He's an absolute unit of a player, and I think that the transitions from Serie A to the Premier League will actually serve him quite well, because it's slightly slower. It has improved in terms of tempo, but it still is slower than the Premier League. But it's definitely more tactical. I think that's what you've seen from Takahiro Tomiyasu, is that's the reason that he's come in, and he's been able to adapt to the system so well. He's been able to execute game plans that's been handed to him very, very well, because it's just so disciplined tactically in that league. I think also as well, when you look at our striking options at the minute, Aubameyang can't hold the ball up. He's quite decent at running in behind and finishing. Alexander Lacazette can hold the ball up. He's just not very good at running in behind and finishing. So we've got everything we want in 2 different strikers, but I think Vlahovic gives you everything in one. The one thing I will say is that don't expect him to come in and be this runner like Alexander Lacazette is straight away, because that's not his game. That's not what he does. And maybe that's because he's like he's the superstar for Fiorentina. And I think that he's given slightly more of a free role. He doesn't really run and put pressure around, but maybe he would adapt his game to suit Mikel Arteta's system. But I definitely think if there's money to throw at a striker, he's probably the best one, I think, to throw it at, because he's got all the physical attributes. He's technically very, very gifted. People have said the comparisons between him and Robin van Persie and Ibrahimovic and stuff. And well, I wouldn't put him in that category yet. Obviously, the big boots to fill, but he's got all the ingredients to become a top striker in the Premier League. Now, going on to the Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang thing. Before Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang came in, we heard the rumours about his behaviour at Borussia Dortmund, the lack of professionalism, the way that his attitude was around the training camp and stuff like that. And for me, Aubameyang's a good times player. When things are going well for him, he's a great guy to have around. But when things aren't going so well, he just seems to me like he's potentially an absolute nightmare. And I think that you see that within people used to love his online persona, these Instagram posts with him and Lacazette and stuff, and him bantering around and laughing and playing pranks and doing jokes. But to me, I always looked at that and thought, you never would have seen Tony Adams doing that. You know, you never would have seen John Terry doing that. You never would have seen Vincent Kompany doing that. And for me, that's the problem, is that he was throwing the armband as a bargaining chip to keep him here. And I think that only sort of opened the door to even more exploitation of the soft underbelly of Arsenal Football Club and the way it had been run in years past. But for all the criticisms anybody could fairly have of Mikel Arteta, you can't say that he isn't ruling with an iron fist, and that's somebody that we've definitely needed behind the scenes to be cracking down on this sort of nonsense. Obviously, with the health thing, if that is indeed true, the condition that he does have with his heart, obviously that's very, very serious. He's a father and a family man, and first of all, the most important thing is that he's healthy and okay. But if you're asking me if Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has a future at the club, I think that any of these rumours or any of this lack of discipline that has surfaced whilst he's been away on international duty with Gabon is probably the final nail in the coffin for Arsenal.
Yeah, and you know, again, you mentioned the father and the family man and stuff. I mean, these rumors do directly address something that puts that into question. Not that that's any of our business. I'm just saying, it's hard sometimes when things keep happening to not start to buy into them a little bit. Again, it's the concept of what is it called when you know, if things. What's the phrase when something keeps happening? There's probably some truth to it, or
no smoke, no fire.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, again, I don't want to, even though I have in the past on certain things, I don't want to assume anything is true. And Aubameyang appears, although not directly and overtly, to be rubbishing the rumors of his being sent back being anything due to health. It's just, you know, again, when it came to Mesut Ozil, there was so much noise. There was so much negative noise. Some of it was, you know, was it the club and the China thing? Was it him? There were things I was hearing from people who knew him very well, just completely offline in private, telling me about things that made it pretty clear he was no savior or nice guy, even in some of the nice things that he did publicly. You know, but you get worn out sometimes of it, and that's the stage I'm in right now. I'm just worn out on Aubameyang, Jared. I can't. I just and as long as he's not playing in the first team squad, it really kind of isn't that big of a deal. But I don't want to be still having this situation going on next August. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you know, you say it doesn't really matter when he's not in the first team, and I kind of agree, and I kind of don't.
Well, I didn't say that about Ozil, so you're right.
Yeah,
it matters whether he's around the club or not.
Yeah, it irritates me that we're spending time talking about him when he's not even with the team. He's not playing games. He shouldn't be the focus of what's going on. We're on a very good run. We've got a lot of guys performing well. I hate that we're spending time talking about rumors around Aubameyang again, because we've been there before and before and before that again. He's kind of, like you said, there's only so many times I think people are falsely accused of relatively the same thing. You know, at some point, there's probably at least a little bit of truth there. to him causing some sort of problems for himself and in turn the club. At the end of the day, I don't think it matters a lot because I don't think he's going to be here beyond this year. And without an injury to Lacazette, I don't think we're going to see him play again for Arsenal this year. So it's one of those things that's going to just kind of solve itself as he goes away, would be my hope. And, we hope it has no impact on the first team. And if he does have a health issue, we wish him all the best. I don't wish ill on him. He's been a good servant to the club. We absolutely don't win the FA Cup without him. And he's got us a lot of good moments. But I think his time here's kind of run its course, and he's going to be on the way out as soon as we can find a way to move him.
Jace, did you see how calmly and professionally Jared told me that he would have preferred I didn't even bring this up?
It was a thing of beauty, a thing of absolute beauty. Look, whatever's going to happen is done for the club. Okay, again, we have no influence over it, But I think if you look at sort of performances without Aubameyang this season, we've looked a lot better. And I don't want to rubbish the guy because he scored a lot of goals for us. And when he first came into the club, he seemed to be a great influence. But I think once knocked the nail on the head, he's a good time player. When things are going his way, he's happy, he's positive. Unfortunately, look, whatever's happening, we don't miss him on the park. And when you don't miss your captain on the park, that says an awful lot. And, if we can go out and get a striker to allow us to let Lacazette and Aubameyang go and, develop somebody else. So, you've got the boy Balogun, really, he's an exciting prospect. We need to develop him properly. You can bring in a loan signing and a main signing and go forward. And if that's what Mikel Arteta wants to do, that's what's going to happen, and fantastic. I can't remember who put it up here, but somebody mentioned about the midfield, and they were bang on. The midfield is a bit of a problem area for us, at this moment in time. And that's where you'd like, a bit more fresh blood again. Tom Sobel. Because, it's not working out for Ainsley Maitland-Niles, which is a real shame because I really like him. I think he's a talented player. And for whatever reason, we're not getting there. Lokonga, it's going to take time for him to adjust. Even if we bring Vlahovic in, it's going to take time for him to adjust the Premier League. It's not going to be an instant hit aspect, or it's highly unlikely he'll be an instant hit. You never know with certain players. But there's a lot of positivity around recent performances from sort of West Ham onwards. We've looked a lot better. I look back at those games against Everton and Man United, and I don't think it could have been any worse. We were gutless, but we found our backbone. We're going forward, and it's great to see. And fingers crossed, we can keep it going. We're going to have Brentford home. We're going to have Wolves home and away coming up. We've got to be looking at getting maximum amount of points haul from these games. And I really want us to smash Brentford in the mouth and put them back in their place after their first game of the season. I want to send them down. I really want us to send them down. I want us to obliterate them, eviscerate them. Shit.
Well, they're not in one of the three that I would love to see Newcastle go down. I think we're obviously going to see Norwich go down, although after this weekend, maybe not. Burnley. Too many teams I want to see go down that are in front of Brentford. You got to actually respect, I think, the way Brentford has played. Other than,
I respect them. I just don't like them.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, that's how I feel about everyone else that I podcast with. So. Speaking of doing something completely not respectable, we're about to see the return of something we haven't seen in many years. In fact, the last time we saw it, it was retweeted by the mothership.
Have you finally seen your dick? Oh, sorry. Sorry.
It's been a while. Yeah. October 2018, Arsenal retweets this magical moment where I sublimated all adulthood and manhood and was seen holding an Arsenal crest.
The fuck was this you?
At a WWE event. it's something I did for a number of years. Now look, I used to use my son as an excuse for why I watch and go to wrestling events, but he's gotten tired of it. He's outgrown it, and I'm still there watching. But yeah, there's nothing better than the Twitter furor. You want to talk about gates? Sign gate is something that happens every time I do this because over the years. There's Jake right there holding the sign. Over the years, I've that's my son holding the sign, which he's too embarrassed to do now. He won't do that anymore. But try to go to events where I'm going to get on camera holding up the sign, and then Twitter goes absolutely mental. You get Spurs fans talking about it. You get people from all over the world saying, "Oh, I saw that Arsenal sign." In the background. and it's been, between COVID and me temporarily growing up for a little while, it's been a while. We even got this one. This was confiscated from me because it apparently was a little too advertising. But I did get it up in one situation in the perfect position here. And they did take that from me about 5 minutes afterwards. Look at how fat my arms are holding that thing. But yeah, so Wednesday night, live from Washington D.C. is AEW Dynamite, and we have a few signs that are going to be going up. I spent 3 hours making these last night.
You just spend your entire free time doing arts and crafts.
I spent 3 hours and probably $30 on supplies, like press-on letters that I had to have a glue stick. When I ran out of E's, I had to take a B and cut it. I mean, like, I'm creative AF. I had to take a B and cut it so that it looked like an E. But we got this one. We got this. which I showed to some people last night, and they're like, "Is that a picture of you, or did you cut a hole in the thing and put your face?" So we got that one. We got this is a very serious one here. We have this. Hopefully, bring some attention because there are no more generous, charitable people than people who watch grown men wrestling each other in tights. And then, last but not least, this is a two-part one. Which someone, the person who encouraged me to put the poop emoji on there deserves part of the credit. And then, of course, I'll be standing next to my friend Ryan holding this one. So we'll see how quickly the signs get confiscated, how quickly I get confiscated. But if you don't normally watch and you just want to watch for the entertainment, we're going to be like 5 rows from the ring, like directly where the camera is. So it's going to kind of be like this positioning right here. And it's I think it's on TBS at 8:00 on Wednesday. And I think it's on Fight or something, Fight, something like that over in the UK at 1 a.m. on Thursday morning. And then just watch Twitter go nuts. It's going to be fun.
Do they let people bring signs in that are that large, or do you have these like taped to your back and under your shirt when you're trying to get through the gate?
Well, there used to be in the wrestling historian will now answer that question. It used to be that like they encourage you to bring signs, and like literally at times you couldn't see any faces because everyone was holding up signs. That's kind of changed lately. I don't know if it was. I think probably with social media, people started using signs to self-promote. Mm-hmm. Which doesn't bode well for my Goonersversuscancer.com and my Magic Mike, that stuff. But you don't see them as often anymore. But they still bring them, and those are normally the size of them. I mean, you hold them up for a second. You don't hold them up the whole game, the whole show. So we'll see. It could be that it just becomes so annoying for me and everyone around me that you see about 2 of them pop up and then you don't see it for the rest of the show. But we'll see. It's a 48-year-old man, almost 49, acting like a 7-year-old. and I love it. Sorry. The stupider something is, the more I love it. With the exception of my family, that's the only situation where that's not the case. So, all right, user questions. Let's get to them, and we have a bunch of them starred. So I think we've pretty much answered this, Pedro. I mean, does anyone think that he'll ever play a game for us again?
No.
I mean, I think
he'll play, but he won't be starting. You know, he's not first choice anymore, is he? You know, we play better without him, but he will make an appearance, I think.
I think you could see him in August. I think there could be this summer situation where we can't get rid of him, or something happens, and just because he's on the team, and I mean, I know that we've cast 300,000 plus wage packet players to the side and not played them for a year or two of their contract before, but I don't know. I think it would be Arsenal's preference that he doesn't play for us again, but who knows what happens in the summer market. If we can't get rid of him, I think we do see him play again. I just don't think it's what we wanted to have happen. And I'm going to give this one to you. From Tom? What do you think the score will be Thursday, and why will it be 4-1 to the Arsenal?
Jeez, wishful thinking that, innit? I actually do. I fancy us for this game. You just see how integral Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah are to their system. I think any team in the world would miss them both, to be fair. But just how integral they are to their attacking style. And I don't think they've got any like-for-like replacements. Diego Jota is a very good player, but with those two around him to carry that burden, I'm not sure he's the type of guy just to completely lead the line on his own. I think it all depends what way we set up in midfield. I myself, I'm a bit of a pessimist, so I would say that the defensive approach worked really well. I think that's why we got a result in the reverse fixture, simply because the Xhaka red card eliminated any opportunity we had to go forward, and it just gave us the one sort of lane to go down, and defend was the only thing we can do. So I think if we go in with a relatively similar approach and just hit them on the break where they're vulnerable, I think we can get a bit of joy out of it. So I'll go for 1-0.
1-0. Jared, your score without as much analysis, because that was Owen's question.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it short. It's tough to call one because we don't know who's going to be available, if anyone. But I still like us to win at home. We've got good momentum from last week, so I'm going to take 2-1 Arsenal.
Nice. Jace, you optimistic about this one?
Oh, not at all. But I'll take 2-1 every day of the week. I'll go with that. I can't see us stopping them scoring again. But I think I agree with the boys. You know, if you play counter-attack football with them, you know, the Villa game, the way we counter-attacked was beautiful. You know, the goal against City, fantastic. We've just got to, use our pace and really use the link men well. And, I don't see anything to fear from them. My main concern is us self-imploding. That's the big thing. You know, we have that in us at the moment where we can self-implode and just let it get away from us. But let's be positive and let's go for the win.
Yeah, what concerned me in the last game, and we got away with it, and more than got away with it, was Diogo Jota against Cedric. And of course, Cedric went out 10 minutes in with injury and was replaced by Chambers, and maybe that ended up changing something. I mean, I don't see Chambers all of a sudden being the guy to put Jota in his pocket, but Tomiyasu is available.
I've got to be honest here. How does Cedric get a game for us? How on earth does he get a game for us? On his previous performances, he's been atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Chambers in that situation if Tomiyasu isn't ready. And I'm not suggesting that that's like,
Mike, I'd pick you ahead of Cedric.
I've heard that before. I'm going to go 2-2 just because, again, I don't pick us to win games because we always lose them when I do. So I'm going to go 2-2, and I do realize that there has to be a winner on the day. And no, a 2-2 draw would not put them through on away goals. There are no away goals. So I'll go 2-2, and then I'll get back to you about what I think is going to happen after that. Daniel Robert, where will we finish in the league next season? So we're thinking 16 months ahead, Daniel. And Jace, will you be coming to London for the quadruple bus tour? Jace, will you be coming to London for the Brighton game, where my son and I will be for round 2 of the Tollington?
Wait, this season or next season?
This season.
What
I don't know when the Brighton game is going to be next season. So.
I have no idea. Well, you know me. I'm hoping to get up to the Brentford game and maybe the Wolves game. But that's yet to be decided. Yeah, go on then.
Well, I'm giving you 3 months' notice or 2.5 months' notice.
Yeah. I'll sort that out. What day is it?
Where will we finish in the league now? Daniel, I'm changing your question to where are we going to finish in the league this season? Next season, I mean the next season. Come on, who knows? Who knows if we'll even be in the league next season? Can we hold on to 4th? We've been kind of asking that the last couple of weeks since we got into 4th, and frankly, we're not 4th at the moment either. We're 5th, but can we consolidate that spot, or do you think we kind of hit the top and are just looking to stay top 6? And I'm sorry, I realize you got to go. If you want me to outro you, I can, or if you want to just leave.
Out me, Mike. Out me. Goodbye.
I was about to literally out you, and then I was like, that just won't be cool. But, you know.
Backstage.
All right. See you next time, Owen.
See you, Bob.
I'm happy that I'm getting out just before you 3 start talking about DT.
I think we're going to skip that.
No. All right, I'll see you later, boys.
All right, bye, Owen.
Bye.
All
right, so can we hold on to 4th? Where do you see us finishing?
Who are you going to?
You.
Oh, right. I'm a lot more positive now than I was a few weeks ago. I got to be honest with you. I pray to God we can get 4th. I really do. I think it would be a huge achievement for Arteta, given last season's form and early season form. So, let's fingers crossed we can get 4th. I think it's a possibility. We're in a good position. And given our patchy form all season, if we can string good form together for 10 games, there's no reason why we can't get top 4. Because even though, people say, oh, we've been constantly improving, I don't think we really have. We've gotten lucky in a few games. From West Ham onwards, you've seen an improvement in performance. But early December, we were awful. So if he can get that improvement in performance and a bit of consistency, there's no reason why we can't get top 4. There really isn't. So at this moment in time, do you know what? I'm not Mikel Arteta's biggest fan at the moment, but fingers crossed he can make it work, and fingers crossed, we can get it, and that would be a massive achievement for him, and it'd be all credit to him and the squad.
I happen to think that the way our schedule pans out between now and March, or between now and May, really, it's kind of like that year Liverpool was out of Europe. It is kind of setting up like that, where we have good players who are going to be fully rested and just feasting on Premier League competition. If we can stay healthy, it really is kind of lining up like that. I didn't like the idea of being out of Europe at all. I never would, but you look at what we've got in front of us and what everyone else is dealing with in this challenging environment of game postponements. I actually think that once we get through our COVID breakout, which I suppose we're not even really having right now, if we were able to avoid that, it's setting up for us to really consolidate and want teams around us fail as they have been really in the last couple of weeks. Jared, we got 2 questions about Vlahovic, and because you're the guy for analysis and for incredible voices. Does he remind you more of Ibra or RVP or someone else? And when do you think we should draw a line under the transfer and just kind of move past it for the January timeframe anyway, if we haven't already?
Sure. So for Tom's question, who does he remind me of? I spoke about this last time I was on with you. To me, he reminds me a little bit of Harry Kane. I think he's got a little more physicality even, but the size, the build, the style of play, the ability to hold the ball up and play a long out ball like Kane does to Son very often. I think he's got that in his game. And I don't like that comparison because I think we all hate Harry Kane, but definitely an effective goal scorer. And when do I think we give up on him? Probably an unpopular opinion. I don't see us bringing really anybody in this month. I think if we could get him, that'd be that'd be a coup for Arsenal if you can bring in a player like him. But if you look at how we handled last season's windows, we basically concentrated on all the outgoings we needed to get rid of, and then waited until the summer for all of our incoming business. I think we're going to do something similar. I know we're short in midfield and at striker, but you just saw this week we recalled Miguel Aziz from loan and Therese John Jules from loan to kind of fill in those areas. So while, like everybody else, I'm very hopeful that we do make a move, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we kind of move forward with the team we have right now and tried to ride it out till May.
Especially with, and this just kind of occurred to me, and no one's going to be happy about this, but I'm sure the Cronkies look at our fixture list and look at the fact that between now and the summer transfer window, we have either 18 or 19 more games to play. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not 18 could rise to 30. It's not anything like that, like it has been in years past. When you buy a player, you pay him weekly, whether we play 0, 1, or 2 games in that week, right? So, for them to make a big purchase, it's not really. And again, I hate this because I'm not excusing this. I'm just saying this is kind of seems to be the way the Cronkies think. It won't be about the transfer fee. Because that's amortized and it gets you the player. It's about paying wages for an extra 6 months that you don't need to be paying wages because you can't play 20 players in every game. And because of that, I tend to agree, Jared, that we'll probably – we're seeing players get recalled that we're already paying or we're already on our squad. We're seeing moves made to loan out players that could have been depth players for us, like Pablo Mari. Again, you don't want them playing, but you could find yourself short at center back. And I think they're still really trying to manage that wage bill. So it would be surprising to bring on a player who's going to be, 6-figure wages every single week. And that's unfortunate because I really think we could use 1 or 2.
Do you mind if I come in there?
Yeah.
The big thing is when, we've spoken about this earlier on, we're not getting any goals from centre forward. Okay, and if you can bring somebody in who's going to bring you an extra 10 goals, okay, who's got a possibility of bringing you extra 10 goals, there's your top 4 finish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and the flip side of that is if you don't do it, then you're missing on a lot more than whatever you're saving in wages over 6 months.
Exactly. But the big thing is, that you look at them with the Rams and what have you, they bring in Becton, they bring in Donald, they bring in whoever they need to do to bring them success there, okay? If you're looking at Arsenal Football Club at the moment and you're looking at limited revenue streams, okay, Champions League brings you an awful lot of money, okay? You're in the hunt. Even with patchy form throughout the season, you're in the hunt. Then you add 10 extra goals from centre forward alongside, the talent that's on the wings of Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Saka. We're starting to get a couple of goals from midfield as well. Goals are what win you games. And, to me, I understand the question, but you don't draw a line under a transfer until it's absolutely dead in the water. The negotiators will know where they are. And if it's dead, if there's no possibility of him coming, right, then you move on, okay? But, if you think if he's your man, if Mikel Arteta thinks he's the difference, then I think you've got to back him because, the price of the player is only going to go up. It's not going to go down if he's successful for the rest of the season. So you're better off spending the money now and going for it rather than procrastinating. And, we've all been here before where we won't dish out the money for a player. Look at Suarez. Look at all the other players we've missed out on.
I think in the wake of Suarez.
Yeah, there's a plethora of players which could have been the difference between us winning a title. You look at that Leicester title-winning season. If we'd have brought in a decent midfielder, he would have covered the injuries. We could have, earned those extra points, which would have turned us into a title-winning side. So, have they learned from previous lessons? I hope they have. If we can't get it done, we can't get it done. There's no shame in that. It's not all, if he wants somewhere else, that's fine. But if you've done everything you can possibly do to make the club as attractive as possible, if you've laid out a vision for him, if you've explained to him, look, not being funny, come to us, you're 21 years of age, okay, 2 to 3 good seasons, Real, Barca will be coming in. we'll want 300 million quid for you, but imagine the wages you're going to be on then. You've just got to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Couple rapid fire ones. Daniel asked when the 2022 Football Phrases FA Cup is. It's going to be very soon. We actually started it, and I wish we hadn't when I was in England on the Arsenal Soup program that we were doing and will be doing again on Lee Judges TV. But the Football Phrases FA Cup, I've added about 6 or 7 new phrases over the last few weeks to my chart. We'll be knocking other ones out. If you think of any football phrases like sixes and sevens and ripping up trees and stuff that you would never hear if you were, for instance, watching an NFL game, for example, feel free to tweet them at me and we'll put them in the lineup. So that will be soon. How many minutes will it be before I get ejected for my signs? I think they'll eject the signs before they eject me. I will be ejected. It just won't be for the signs. It'll be because, maybe like charging the what is it? The ring. It'll be for not knowing what the thing is called that they're wrestling with. On Thursday, do you play Aziz in midfield or play a back five? That's an interesting call. Jared, we have recalled Miguel Aziz, and I'm not so sure whether it's because he wasn't good enough or because he was good and we need him back. I didn't think he was getting a lot of time there.
He wasn't getting any playing time, and I think my assumption is that we look at him as an emergency option if we need him. We'll see who's available and see what the formation options are, but I'd be a little surprised to see him start, but I think he'll likely make the bench just because we're so thin.
I wouldn't mind playing about. I mean, the way the back five played, kind of when we had to go to it out of necessity against Liverpool last week. I don't know if he starts that way, but any chance Aziz becomes the next Francis Coquelin, Jace? In other words, a guy that we get back from loan and then never scores a goal for us ever. But
no, he's got far too much talent for that. And God love Frankie Coquelin, but he did a job for us, to be fair to him. He really did a job for us, but he was never the quality we needed. And as soon as sort of the one thing I'm always frustrated and bewildered by is why Arsene played him further up the pitch. He was so ineffective there. In your own half, he was very effective. He did a great job. And, he played a really important part in that cup-winning side. But Jesus wept.
We have a bad habit of taking defensively minded players and sticking them in the number 10 position for no good reason. Although Torreira did score a goal today. It was a pretty nice goal for Fiorentina, but more players scored for them than didn't today.
But the thing, it's a shame Torreira didn't work out. I think he found the physicality of the league tough. He struggled to settle in the country. It's just a shame, It's he's a lovely little player, but Aziz is a talent who needs to be developed. Not getting game time at Portsmouth.
Yeah, it was at Portsmouth.
Yeah. If you're not getting game time at Portsmouth, it just shows his age, etc. And it may be best just to develop him in house for the time being and bring him along, and and go from there. But
he can play. He can play in if we end up in the Europa League next year rather than the Champions League or rather than out. It'd be perfect to have him start to play. Maybe Patino starts to get some time in those games, but not in the games that we're playing now. I think we saw with Charlie Patino that too much too soon can. If you keep that going, we can start destroying players' confidences.
It's this thing, isn't it? If you play well against Sunderland, well, no disrespect to Sunderland, but they are a bang average football club at the moment, a bang average team, okay? And you're playing in guys who are, you come on and you play with guys who are bossing the game. It's an easy game for you to come into. It's an easy game to look good in. The Forest game, Forest are playing well at the moment. Steve Cooper's a very defensive-minded manager. You saw in the way they set up and the way they managed the game, okay? It wasn't easy to break them down. And with all due respect to Patino and Aziz, they're still young players who need to learn to play against men, so to speak, hardened professionals. And it's a good learning curve for them.
Had Patino come in the 80th minute of a Forest game where we had already broken them, then it would have been the same thing. I mean, it's not even that he was playing against Sunderland. If he'd started against Sunderland, you could say that. He came into a game when it was already 4-0, 3-0, or 3-1. I mean, what? I don't even remember. Did we allow a goal?
It's an armchair ride. It's an armchair ride.
And so that's a different environment. I think that was the perfect time to put Patino in. Then, unfortunately, we had no choice but to start him against Forest, and we saw the flip side of that. Final question that we have tonight: is Jace related to Stacy from Gavin and Stacy? I did a little Googling so that I could figure that out, and I saw something about Cardiff or Wales or something. But is that a worthwhile question, or should we just?
Look, I'm from Armandford, okay? It's a very different part of the world to Cardiff.
All right. So, and Daniel wants to know from Jared if you're scared about catching up on the stupidest, worst. This is from a guy who's going to a wrestling event soon. The biggest waste of time, and shows that you're not actually an Arsenal supporter is when you play FPL. I'm just kidding. This has been a Gooners podcast on a week where we spent 90 minutes talking about absolutely nothing because we didn't play. But Jace, always lovely to have you. I love you. You're even better having met you. You're a nice person to sprinkle in every 6 months or so.
Hey, mate, it was brilliant to meet you that game. I look forward to seeing you at the Brighton game. Jared, it's lovely to meet you. I will think of your voice when I go to sleep tonight. It'll send me off beautifully. Okay. But no, it's a pleasure being on, lads. It's a pleasure being on. It's I like to do. It's nice to do it now and again, isn't it? It's nice to do it now and again.
It's like it's like being retired, and then you just get to kind of go back and have a taste. It's like being a grandparent instead of a parent.
Oh, cheers,
That's
mate.
what I'm thinking of.
And what a weekend to coming back on. Spurs fans upset, the media upset.
Yeah, we didn't know exactly what our lineup was going to be for tonight until about Saturday, and on Saturday I'm like, jeez. Like it was like the bat signal went out, and I'm like, this is a weekend for Jace. So, and it had been the commensurate amount of time since the last time we had you on, so I knew you wouldn't be like overrun with the podcast. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it, Jared.
Brilliant to do it,
friend. Yeah. Stay warm, and we will. We might be back on Thursday. Well, I'll be doing the post game show on Thursday after the game if there is one. And then we'll see what happens with Burnley. It's just you never know what to expect with this Premier League anymore. So, in any case, take care, everyone. Watch me on Wednesday night. I will be performing live in front of millions of people, and come on, you Gooners.